Welcome back, guys, to my channel where we talk about business, sports cards, finance, and investing. I'm the card boss. Today, I've got several questions to answer, and these questions came up through a recent local kind of like get-together with a couple of friends to talk about a hobby in general. So, got some of these questions. I decided it'd be interesting to just pen down these questions here and to share with you guys my actual responses back to those guys and maybe elaborate slightly more than what I did on that day itself. So let's get right to it. All right, so question number one, is the NBA playoffs a bad time to be buying active players such as Shea, Luka, and Man? Well, it's pretty interesting. At this juncture, for me personally, I choose not to buy any active players completely. Okay, exception to one player, but this is the time where you see lots and lots of price fluctuations for cards. You know, for guys who are performing well in these playoffs, and of course, subsequently, if they get bumped on the playoffs, you can see a significant downward price adjustment in all the cards. Okay, has been a trend that's been happening year on year. Okay, some players where you don't expect them to do well, or they come out of nowhere, and think of names such as Caleb Martin, Damian Lillard at one point during the pandemic. His prices for his cards went up to I think 5x at one point. Nobody expected him to do very well. Of course, subsequently, prices of all these players do come down dramatically. All right, so even right now, we're at the stage we're moving towards the next round of playoffs. Okay, like the Lakers is out, Luka is out. Okay, so you're obviously gonna expect to see some downward tick on Luka's cards, and Shea's still doing strong, and Man's doing pretty all right. So these cards will still hold a lot of value at this juncture. But this is not the time to be buying into any of these guys, and maybe just at this moment, just ride it out, enjoy the playoffs, watch the games, support your favorite teams. That's likely what we're doing. The only player that I probably still be buying right at this juncture that's still actively playing is probably Steph Curry. Question number two, do I apply a discount rate for sticker autos compared to on-card autos? Not necessarily I put an actual rate. I wouldn't call like sticker autos to be 70% of value of on-card autos. Again, it depends very much on the set, depends very much on the player, depends very much on the year as well. Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily say that sticker autos need to be at a percentage of on-card autos. Of course, everybody tend to value on-card autos more than sticker. Given a choice, definitely I would prefer to buy on-card over sticker. But you find sometimes sticker autos actually looks pretty nice, pretty well formed compared to on-card, because when it comes to on-card autos, the athletes just have that one shot at signing the card. Occasionally you get some signatures that goes out of the box, out of the card sometimes, but stickers are generally well formed autograph, and it's placed, they probably pick the best and to place on the specific spots on the card. It's less personalized, so I can see why people tend to prefer the on cards, but the short answer is I don't think I can apply a specific discount rate on sticker autos. Next question, rank my favorite sets. Okay, this is my 3 favorite sets, which is I guess the most popular among all: National Treasures, Immaculate, Flawless, right? So obviously these are the more higher end sets, but if I were to rank these 3, previously I ranked Flawless number 1, NT number 2, and Immaculate number 3. But I recently take a bit of liking into Immaculate, especially high grade Immaculate, but I still wouldn't rank them above Flawless. So Flawless still takes number 1, Immaculate goes number 2, NT goes number 3. Other sets aside from this big 3, I kind of like Noir at the moment. Okay, I know historically Noir's pretty chippy on the edges, conditions not the best, so they don't grade very well. But the design on the card, the colors on the card, I kind of like Noir. So these will be my top 4 sets overall. Okay, 4th question. This one. What's the story behind the Marvel cards boom and crash? Right. this is probably a video on its own, okay? But I'm just going to give you the short version of it. So when the pandemic came and when sports card prices were, off the charts, okay, people were looking for different kind of alternative assets to put their money in or to bankroll their profits into. Some into comics, some into NFTs. But they're just looking in different spots. And Marvel was one of them that caught a lot of people's attention because they do have some similarities to sports cards, and that was the PMGs. Okay, so Marvel PMGs, the first year of PMGs was in 2013 from the Fleer retro set, and they have the PMG reds, the blues, and the greens. Okay, so these PMGs were reasonably priced for many years, but I cannot really recall which particular auction it was when it actually did pretty well. Now, I covered a lot of Marvel previously back in the days, but this PMG sale became the catalyst of where all the eyes were focusing on Marvel. And it was I can still remember this, during the 2021 Atlanta Culture Collision, okay, where I think it's the first show after almost like a year because of the pandemic. And that's when Marvel cards really got into the spotlight, really was sizzling and went on fire. And it went on a very huge run for, I believe, a good 5 to 6 months subsequent to that show. And a lot of crazy things happened, which led to the final push, which was the Spider-Man movie, No Way Home. Okay, that was one crazy PMG red sale of Spider-Man as well. I believe it was $76,000. I can't remember the exact number. But as fast as it grew, it just went away. Now, it didn't mean that the Marvel collectors shy away from cards. I believe Marvel collectors are still there. All the OG collectors are still going about it their ways, collecting their favorite characters. But it's the sports card guys who came in, who put big money to speculate, to invest, right? And they realized that because these prices were not sustainable, the Marvel collectors weren't buying these cards at absurd prices. In fact, they were brilliant to kind of wait it out, wait for the cards prices to come down. And true enough, it did. And because of that, the money was lost. There was a lot of capital that was lost during this period. And slowly, you can attribute that to a crash. But in this case, it wasn't a market that crashed. It's just that a lot of investors who weren't sure what they were doing, lost a lot of money basically in this market. Okay, this one, popular one. Auction versus buy now / best offer. What's my favorite? Now, in the past, I generally prefer buy now, best offer. That's one way you could always say that you kind of guarantee that you're going to make some money. It depends on how much, right? Get a card, price it, just wait for the offers to come in. And that's basically the thing. You got to wait, okay? So in the business, for me, especially, as fluid, as volatile as sports cards, sitting around and wait, can be not a very good thing. Of course, some people say you buy a certain card, you hold it for long term, you wait it out for a couple of years. That's investing. But when it comes to buying and selling as your trading stock, putting up there, it's waiting for somebody to come in and pay the price. Especially when market comms are available, available to everybody. So if you're not priced well, and most of the time people want to buy below comps, for obvious reasons. So you find yourself, get a bit stuck, not moving your inventory as fast as you like. And because you don't move your inventory as much, capital or cash flows become an issue, and therefore you cannot replenish with new inventory to sell. Or, your business is kind of like stuck in a flat place. Okay. Auctions, on the other hand, yes, it's a bit uncertain. If you don't know what kind of results you're going to get. Sometimes you catch the right win, sometimes you don't, sometimes you make money, sometimes you lose. There's a lot of uncertainty that comes around auctions. But one thing that's almost guaranteed is cash flow, right? Of course, you get the occasional customers who don't pay and stuff like that. But most of the time, if you work with the right auction house, you get paid, right? It's cash flow. It's cash coming in for you to buy new inventory. If you make money, awesome. If you lose money, that's all right too, because you get cash into your bank for you to re-buy new inventory, to resell and to redo it again. And that's basically the name of the business, okay? I think the time has passed to buy something and then you're going to get like easily 2x, 3x, I don't talk about grading, but just buying, flipping 2x, 3x. The time is gone. Making 20, 30%, it still happens, but not often to my liking, especially if you're working online where you got to take into account transaction fees like eBay and all these kind of things. So therefore, the margins are extremely slim. So coupled by the fact that if your cards are not moving on a timely basis, your cash flow is going to definitely be a problem. So for me personally, auctions the way to go. All right, final question. Why did I stop selling on eBay? Now, I did a video about this in my previous channel on, I did pretty well on eBay last year in 2024, doing about 200K in revenue. But I decided to stop selling on eBay around August, late August of last year, so about good 8 months on eBay. Of course, we're all very familiar with the eBay fee structure, right? It's pretty high once you take away the fees and the payments as well. I use Payoneer. The net is roughly about, I get about 85%, or they take away about 15% most of the time. It's pretty substantial. So eBay fees are quite expensive. Of course, you get a lot of visibility. That's what people say. Lots of more eyeballs. It works for some people. I get it. I'm not saying that eBay is a bad product, but it doesn't work well for me because the kind of stuff that I want to sell, it's a bit more on the higher side, and it actually benefits better to a different set of auction houses like I use FedEx Collect as an example. The other point on eBay why I stopped selling is because of the returns or because of some of the fraudulent activities that I actually encountered twice, okay, which left a bit of sour taste in my mouth, whereby a customer purchased something from me, I sent it with tracking, when delivered, and he said he didn't receive it. Okay, so of course we went into the dispute, and he claims that, look, that's a community mailbox, and because of that, somebody must have taken his item, but he didn't receive his item regardless. And to me, it's pretty obvious, right? I did my part as a seller, but eBay just sided with the buyer, so kind of sucked. And the other thing is because eBay is a very competitive selling environment, so it's very important that all sellers maintain a very high standard of selling, which means that there are certain metrics that you as a seller need to follow. Okay, so for me, I've been doing all right for many, many months, and it's come to a point whereby there was one stage I decided to liquidate my collection of sealed packs, okay, which I actually bought previous year for Christmas opening, which never really happened. Okay, so I just decided to sell the loose packs accordingly. Now these packs range from anything between $20 to $50 a pack. Okay, and because they were so low value, I use regular shipping, registered mail, but regular shipping as opposed to FedEx, which is what I usually use for selling singles, high value items from Malaysia to the US. But in this case, because the packs were between $20 to $50, it didn't make sense to pay a large amount for shipping. And as always, sometimes you have run into some issues with USPS. You have some products circling around. Now, eventually, sometimes I believe these items do reach the recipient, but they just don't get updated on the USPS system. And because of that, whether intentionally or maybe it's real or fake, I'm not too sure, but the buyer will lodge a dispute. And because of that $20 pack, right, I get a negative mark from eBay. And the way eBay system works is you can't afford to have too many of these kind of marks, okay? It's because that I don't have that many eBay transactions, okay? So it's fine if you do like 1,000 transactions a month and you get like one bad apple, which is okay. But because I do like maybe 50 transactions a month, so one bad transaction, even though the value is insignificant compared to the others, eBay still marks you accordingly and basically puts a lot of restriction to your seller account. So that kind of like put a bit of a issue to my business. I just didn't like the flow of it. I don't like being stuck like this, especially for things that's not my fault. So after these couple of bad experiences, I just decided to move on from eBay. eBay is still great. I still buy from eBay a lot, but as a seller, because of the high fees, because of all these bad experiences I have, I've decided not to sell on eBay further, and I moved to exclusively selling on FedEx Collect starting from 2025. So that's pretty much it. So how many questions were there? 6 questions. I hope you guys got something out of this. I do welcome more questions that if you want me to tackle on this channel. Feel free to ask away in the comments or message me on my Instagram. All right, subscribe for my channel for more videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next one. Kabos out.